Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have a couple of questions for the proponent of the bill. If he could, the amendment as it's stated, if he could prepare himself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Sampson, please prepare yourself. Representative Cheeseman, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Through you. It's my understanding, is it not, that that the Trust Act was devised in response to the Secure Communities program, which required local law enforcement, once they'd arrested someone and it had been determined that they were subject to a federal warrant or detention, to then retain that person upon the arrival of ICE. Is that correct? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam. Representative Sampson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And through you to my delightful colleague, that is my understanding, yes, that certain legislatures across the country, including ours, created this state law purposely to obstruct the federal authorities on the subject of prosecuting people who are in violation of our immigration laws. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Representative Sampson. Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Speaker, so it's my understanding, and I just want to confirm it with the good proponent of the amendment, that under the Secure Communities Act, when an individual is arrested, taken into custody, it is customary for the local law enforcement to share their fingerprints with the FBI. Now, under the Secure Communities Act, they then share those fingerprints with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, who are able to say, yes, this person is on our detainer list. Is my understanding correct? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam. Representative Sampson, to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe you are correct. I don't work in law enforcement, but the process that you laid out seems like it is appropriate. I would note, however, that there is nothing in this that would say that someone could not, as an immigrant in the country, illegally approach law enforcement and tell them something. That doesn't generate a civil detainer. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Cheeseman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, that's my understanding as well, that this only applies when an individual has been apprehended for some possible crime or other activity that local law enforcement deem to be illegal. And at that point, if their fingerprints, which are shared with the FBI and are shared with ICE, are determined to be in the system, then ICE is notified and could issue a detainer. Do we share the same understanding? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
To you, Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. And if I'm
to you, Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And again, it's my belief that when ICE is notified, that they do in fact prioritize these detainers and removals, and they're looking particularly at people who present a most significant risk to public safety as determined by the severity of a crime, their criminal history, and other risks to public safety. Is that your understanding as well, Mr. Sampson? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Sampson, please.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, that is absolutely correct. In fact, I would note that in the days leading up to the 9/11 attack on our country, 2 of the hijackers had been stopped on separate occasions by the police department. And if their backgrounds and immigration status had been checked, that plot may have been uncovered. And the Trust Act being enacted essentially undoes that good work. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Sampson. Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, it is not our Connecticut law enforcement or other police who are deciding on detainers. It's only federal immigration authorities who are making a decision with regard to detainers and the need for removal. Is that your understanding, Representative Sampson? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Again, Representative Sampson, the question is for you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yes, that is also completely accurate. The state has no jurisdiction to make that determination. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Cheeseman, do you have more, please?
Thank you. And I heard someone on the other side of the aisle state that commercial airline pilots could issue an immigration detainer. Was that your understanding of the law as it stands? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Cheeseman. Representative Sampson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was stated before, I don't have that 287 federal regulation in front of me, but I do not believe that is accurate, no.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would just like to share with the good proponent of the amendment, having consulted the 287 and seen the line that says Border Patrol agents, including airline pilots, that includes those airline pilots who are actually Border Patrol agents. I have the good fortune to have a member of my family who works intimately with ICE and Department of Homeland Security, and he confirmed with me that commercial airline pilots, unless they are federal air marshals, are in fact unable to issue immigration detainers. So I just wanted to clear that point up. And I thank the good proponent of the amendment for his information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.